cause I makes the sound, the crowd makes the noise. I hold the microphone, the music is yours. In me dancing, doing the biz. What you tell me to do is
Welcome friends to this 8th episode in my vlog series. I've been wanting to do a video which is my life in magazines, but I'm having trouble finding some of the more significant magazines in my timeline. Pretty much I'm a magazine obsessive. They're like so important to me in my life. So I thought rather than try and cram all the significant magazines in one video, I'd separate them out. Plus I'm having trouble finding some. I can't find the first magazine I ever bought anywhere, not on eBay, or I can't even find a picture of the cover online. But we're going to start with the magazine which pretty much made me want to become a graphic designer, I think. It made me want to work on magazines. It started the whole thing. I think I always wanted to be a graphic designer actually, but this idea made me want to design magazines in particular. The first one we saw just before was the Heroes and Sheroes issue, which I'll always say was my favourite ever cover of any magazine ever in the world. If I had to pick one magazine cover to have on my wall, it would be the cover of the Heroes and Sheroes issue, that was from October 1988. But the issue whose content I think influenced me the most is this one. It's the trash issue, which was November 1988, so the next issue after the Heroes and Sheroes issue. It's designed by, well, if I have a look at the credits, it tells you it should be Stephen Mayle as art director and Terry Jones as, where are the credits? Oh, here they are. Yeah, editor-in-chief and art director Terry Jones, art editor Stephen Mayle, and designers, 4 designers credited: Neil Edwards, Paul Baptiste, Karina Farrow, and Richard, who doesn't have a last name. But yeah, I look at this now and I look at the current state of magazine design and what happened? I understand that we're in an era now where people want clarity and readability and all that sort of business. And this ID magazine does come out on the side of obliterating the text quite often. There's a few spreads you'll see further up, and it's a real challenge to actually read the text. But it's so exciting at the same time. And this front section is not so, it's all black and white. It's not so exciting. Although when you think about it, they've obviously chosen black and white because it's more economical. And what they've done with the actual design is made it incredibly bold considering it's one colour, and borrowing all sorts of tabloidy type styles and really coarse screens, which is something I... Pretty much, ID has always worked with what they've got. So the more limited resources, the more resourceful Terry Jones and his crew seem to be. And this was produced in, if you think 1988, it was just before Apple Mac computers took over the whole design process. So this is still being assembled using traditional reprographics. And there's actually a lot of techniques and stuff that they've used which you probably couldn't do with a computer, or you would find incredibly difficult. I'll show you an issue of ID later too, where they had, with Stephen Mayle again as art editor, they transitioned to working just digitally, and it's a lot different. But one of the things about magazines today, people want to do print because print does things that online can't do. I think a lot of designers have lost the idea of how to work with ink though, and that there's so much more that magazines can do design-wise with ink and paper that is being done currently. I mean, looking at these pages, they're delirious. They're absolutely delirious and so full of life and activity, and there's so many... I get obsessed with entry points when you talk about magazine design. So there's so many entry points into the pages. When I say entry points, I mean little snippets of things you want to look at. Your eye is just bouncing all over the place. It's not, it's a challenge to find something you don't want to look at on a page. Whereas, I went to Mag Nation earlier today, and there's another new magazine with tiny little apologetic scented masthead in the middle of the cover, and then every opener is the same with this little apologetic little headline and a little all black and white. And where's the excitement? It's totally gone. It was interesting, this issue too, because they really ran with this idea of making a magazine like a tabloid newspaper, including getting an ad from the Sunday Sport, which is the trashiest, or was at the time. I don't even know if it's still around. It's not something on my radar. But a lot of the headlines and stuff they nicked from. Probably the American equivalent is it the National Enquirer that has stories about Bat Boy and stuff like this. I'm showing this spread because this is when it becomes quite challenging to actually read the text. I don't think anywhere they've completely obliterated it. And then you look at a spread like this, and it is more of a traditional hierarchy. I loved the lettering has this rough hewn that, again, I think that comes from the actual print process. They've blown up text too big or something. When they transfer to digital, all those sort of interesting almost hand-hewn sort of qualities just disappear. Getting back to the tabloid thing, they borrowed a heap of typefaces and, again, the coarse screen effects that you would get from a newspaper. It doesn't look like a newspaper, though, and it's sort of classy in a trashy way. This is great, couldn't just leave an image in a box or as just CMYK. There has to be some sort of interest added, some sort of print effect or odd shape. These are great too, it made you think that they'd cut these little headlines out of something else that they hadn't, they'd just invented them. This was, I should say too, this is probably the Heroes and Sheroes issue was probably the first issue I ever bought. I then have since gone back and bought loads of back issues, stretching way back to the very early era of ID, which I have all in boxes that I can't get to at the moment, which is really frustrating. But these two issues made me want to have every issue. I was quite obsessed. I just really wanted to see everything I'd missed, and I felt like I'd missed this whole cultural event. You can see these are some of the back issues, which I have copies of now. There's very few I don't have copies of. I don't buy as much of the recent issues. I think that's what's happened. But there's never been anything as deliriously joyful as this combination of Terry Jones and Stephen Mayle at ID magazine. I was saying I was going to show you an issue which was much later on. This is 1993, so it's quite a few years on from that issue. And it's completely digitally produced now, but with the same team of Terry Jones and Stephen Mayle. And you can see there's still this idea of using really raw processed colours. So the CMYK is there, you can see it, and that referencing sort of what print does. But then there's different sorts of layouts. It's typographically, it's a lot cleaner. I quite like too that they switch to digital and they start using these sort of vaguely cheesy digital typefaces. So it's still sort of witty. There's still a wit and sort of a clarity, butting these images up so it looks like the band goes on forever when actually it's just 4 pictures. I think what happened when they went digital is imagery became more of the thing to play with. So you'd lost all this sort of really gritty print effects, but you'd gained a really odd sort of way of laying stuff out. I just want to show you this article just because the way it's laid out is so beautiful. It's just really elegant. It's just gridding up a page and slotting everything together. I can't praise Stephen Mayle's time at ID enough. I don't know what he's doing at the moment. He was at Vogue US for a while, but there was no real evidence of his influence. He did stop by at Sleaze Nation and did 2 or 3 issues and completely redesigned the title. So this is his first title Atsley's Nation. There's probably some story about why he didn't hang around for that long. You know, one of those gossipy publishing stories. I don't know. I should find out one day. But yeah, he was there to I don't know if his remit was to reinvent the title, but he did anyway. And very much Stephen Mayle's style again, with the raw process colours. So you've got the cyan and the magenta and the yellow just soaking the page. It adds a real, like, you really feel like the ink's soaking into the paper. And just deliriously bright colours. So I think what I really like about Stephen Mayle's approach is that it's like modernism with just stuff layered over the top of it. It's like you take like this really basic thing like Helvetica and you just see how far you can push it. Again, something a lot of magazines that are coming out recently just are really sort of meek about. It's like they don't want... It's half the time they don't even approach colour, you know? And this is a really easy way to approach colour. You're not even trying to... You don't even have to use a Pantone book. You're just using CMYK and instantly there's more interest. I'm really excited for the next phase of magazine design. I'm a bit over what's happening at the moment. It feels a bit safe and apologetic, and yeah, you don't get that with ID. This is a book that I've featured before, and I'll put a link to the video where I filmed it. But it's produced before computers, and it's all sorts of manual techniques. The book is by Terry Jones, who was the publisher of ID magazine until recently, and it's a really good historical document, if anything. That's us done for this week. I'm sorry it was so late. Next week, hopefully, we'll be back on track. I've recorded lots of footage. There's lots in the pipeline. So subscribe if you want to keep up to date. Keep yourselves nice, and I'll see you on the other side. Bye.
London, New York, Paris, Milan. 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 She's got the whole world watching.